Good morning, everyone. That's where we think we are. So welcome to Smurf again on the Sunday. I'm Paul Bullock. I'm the managing director and one of the directors of a company called 3D 360. A little bit of my background on the screen here and what we do. So I'm an engineering consultant by trade. I've spent 30 plus years in engineering, consulting for people like Sellafield, Magnox, BFL, the Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. I also wear multiple hats. I sit on the Northern Nuclear Alliance's Social Value Group and the Skills and Capability Group. I'm a Nuclear Institute digital specialist, and I'm a member of the Institution of Engineering and Technology. So a little bit about 3D 360. We're an engineering design company predominantly. That was our core skill set, and we've brought that into training, passing those engineer-led skills on and that experience through training programs, focused on sort of public sector training delivery and getting funding so we can help you develop into and upskill into engineers. Lee and I, my co-directors here, Lee's journey is very similar, but he's not got the slide today because he's not standing here. But we're both ex-apprentices. We came through the apprentice route. It worked really well for us, that mix of practical and theory. Really worked well with our characteristics and profiling. And we have a team of 11 permanent staff, contract trainers, 3 apprentices. So we're quite a growing young company, an SME, but growing company, predominantly focused on training and bringing that experience in engineering and the connections we have and the experience of jobs, advanced manufacturing jobs in the sector, bringing that to our training programs and really helping give people that leg up into the sector where we need to. We have a few bases. We're actually from Manchester, so it's nice. This is on home turf today, so at least I'm playing at home. We're based down the road in Leigh. We actually have 2 venues in Leigh. One of them isn't on here. We have our head office here, Da Vinci House, where we predominantly do training and have our head of operations. We have another building, a bigger training room with better access, mobility access, called Spinners Mill. And we have a new facility on the right-hand side there, opening in Whitehaven in Cumbria. And it's worth mentioning. So that facility really brings inclusivity to people. It's our CIC, we set up a community interest company out of the back of 3D 360, which can really reach people who aren't eligible under our other funded programs. But it's all about inclusivity, bringing access to SMEs, bringing access to individuals, to research and development, to advanced manufacturing facilities. And it's all about being open and accessible. Our training program, so Lee and I, we've been applying this on a day-to-day for decades. But what caused that shift really? How do we develop our curriculums? You know, it's not just what we say is right. We work with the High Value Manufacturing Catapult, essentially is a government quango for developing training programs and technology. And we did a program with the High Value Manufacturing Catapult called the Emerging Skills Project 2020. And it was about defining what UK PLC, what skills they need, and what sectors we need to be in to really develop and compete on a global level. We also write some of the curriculums for HND, HNC level 4 and 5. Again, bringing that industry relevant experience of additive manufacturing and advanced manufacturing into the curriculums, which is really useful. Sometimes it can be a little bit underrepresented from industry and employers. We're the end users. We should be having a say on what's in that.
Conservative though.
I was, thank you. And our sort of USP, it's great having all these skills and knowledge, but we need to really help people with our training, and we need to make it accessible. And our USP really is bidding to central government and bidding to get the funding for that, so you don't have to. So all of our programs are funded, or all of these programs are funded or subsidised in some way or other by Department for Education, by the local regions, some of the devolved regions like Manchester, Cumbria, Cheshire, Lancashire. We tap into the European Social Fund for that. The Department for Education pay us to deliver advanced manufacturing training. And we also deliver programs for the Department of Work and Pensions. And our sort of golden thread is the training programs run all the way through, whether that's a beginner or entry program, or whether we're training industry or people at level 6 in some of these advanced manufacturing technologies. It's a golden thread. So you can do one of our training programs, progress to the next one, and really build those skills up. But it means we don't exclude people who are right at the first rung of the ladder. Everyone has to start somewhere. It's about inclusivity. So we've developed a program that allows that and beginners to develop in the sector. So we talked about the high value manufacturing capital. I'm going to talk about why our skills are really needed and what we can offer. The talk is about why neurodiverse minds are perfect for engineering and making. We look at what the output of the high value manufacturing capital were there. Robotics, EVs, 3D printing, composites, all newer sectors, all things that aren't traditionally in the curriculums very much, but all skill sets I'll guarantee people in this group have. I see a lot of robotics out there. I see a lot of electronics, a lot of mechatronics, I see a lot of 3D printing. These are skills we already have, bear in mind. So the industry in UK PLC is changing. It's an opportunity for us to really showcase and come into the limelight. So yeah, robotics, EV, and bearing in mind, when we did this program with the Catapult, industry was in there with us. Bentley were in there doing it. Kraft Heinz were in there doing it. A lot of big industry, a lot of academia, and we in Core 8 group, worked out what we needed. We worked out what skills we needed across all these disciplines. So it's not just us saying it. This is employers at the end saying this is what we want and this is how we want it. Well, so on an output from that, we developed a program called DCUP in Greater Manchester. It was our first program. It started as a proposal to educate educators, ultimately. 21, Lee and I put forward a proposal to our local council to train people in 3D printing and CAD. That was declined, so we, through engineer style, we said we'll do it ourselves then. And we set up a program called DCUP. In 18 months, we were able to train 700 businesses and individuals in Greater Manchester. And 250 of them were educators. That was really important to us. That was a big part of our proposal. And through that programme, we were able to give everyone a 3D printer. That was our USP. If we're going to train people in 3D printing, we need to give them the tools to be able to continue learning. And it was hugely successful. We managed to give 250 printers to education, bringing access to around 250,000 kids in Greater Manchester to 3D printing skills and equipment. So really levelling up there. That programme grew in 2022 into what's called skilled boot camps, advanced manufacturing skilled boot camps. So on top of the printing and the CAD, we added subjects around industrial digitisation, Industry 4.0, which we're surrounded by, robotics, automation, Internet of Things. Internet of Things, EVs, hybrids, cyber. There's a cyber element to what we do, no matter what. Everything is almost web-based or digital. Smart factories, lights off manufacturing, robotics, are key for that. AI manufacturing and net zero, and 3D printing and 3D CAD. So a really, really good program with 60 hours of learning. And again, everyone who comes through that program gets a 3D printer. That's key. A key driver for us, for Lee and I. So we deliver that at the moment. We have the contract for Greater Manchester. We have the contract for the whole of Cheshire and Warrington. We have the contract for Lancashire, and we have the contract for Liverpool. And we're hoping to grow that in the next, in the coming few months, in the next financial year. But I think a really good takeaway, I was asking myself the question when I was doing this, so what? Why? What are you doing about it? And I think it's really important. Since November 21, so in 3 years, we're a young company born out of COVID. Ironically, Lee and I were doing the ventilator valves and the visors. And we redesigned the vent valves, ICE marked the visors, if anyone remembers that. The Cruiser RC3 during COVID. Well, ICE marked that was all to be able to make them at home. So since November 21, we've given away now 1,800 3D printers to learners. We've provided that funding for education for those 1,800 learners, those companies, those individuals, unemployed people, self-employed, to try and knit all that together. And that's actually over £250,000, which makes my eyes water a bit, worth of printed. But that's what we're trying to do. That's the commitment we make to you, to build the digital capabilities across the Northwest and to provide access to opportunities around these sectors. So really, really good impact from what we're doing. So that's a little bit about it. I want to talk now on why neurodiverse minds are perfect for engineering and making. Kind of should feel obvious to many of us, maybe. Engineering, making, creatives, I've only got limited words, but essentially we'll lump them in as the same. They're all the same skills and mindsets. So for this approach, I looked at profiling a little bit. What are some of the personal characteristics? What have we got? Skills are transferable. So what is it that we all have in common? What is it that drives us in this? What is it that makes creatives able to do incredible things, to think outside the box? So I asked ChatGTP the same question. And even in that, I thought that was interesting. When our demographic, I'll ask ChatGTP. Don't assume everyone does that. When I'm in rooms with engineering managers and lead teams, they have no idea. They're the wrong mindset for what we need. But that's a hangover from an old-fashioned world of blue-collar manufacturing. It's changing. So ChatGPT's answer: creative thinking and innovative, analytical, attention to detail, enthusiasm, problem solving, all things I'm sure we all skills I'm sure we all think we have and we all have. Lost my slide there. Just go into that in a bit more detail. Problem solving skills. So feel free to stick your hand up or to comment if anyone feels this resonates with them. Problem solving skills, logical thinker, attention to detail, innovative mindsets, analytical skills, resilience. I think that's a really important one in the world of work and in employment. Practical thinking, right. Organised, curious, ethical, adaptable, detail orientated, and effective communicator. So does that resonate with anyone? Does anyone still agree with that? Is there any massive disagreement with that? I don't think there is. So thank you for the young man as well there for participating. So the interesting thing is the last two slides weren't about neurodiverse people. The last two slides were about engineering, making creatives. And you can see there, right there, the crossovers between those skill sets and those behaviours. And it's a really good, example of why they're so well suited neurodiverse people to engineering, making, creatives. It's the same skill sets. And that's our superpower. That's really what gives us the edge in these environments. Again, helping engineers excel in designing, building, and improving systems. I see so much of that outside the door today. I think it's brilliant. So, does this mean that all engineers are neurodiverse? That's a bit of a $64,000 question. What's your thoughts? Has anyone got any thoughts on that? Does anyone work in engineering? Apart from Lee.
Well, I think
we'll say engineering, but engineering, creative, making again.
We know we've got 60-odd years experience in engineering, and we see these characteristics all the time. People and there's some amazing minds out there, but you have to have that sort of mindset,
Yeah, it's easy to take it for granted. Like Lee said, we work in these environments all the time. It's really easy just to assume that's everyone. It really is. And when you get out there in the outside world, you realise it's not. Things that seem really obvious to you, things that seem really simple, and to a lot of people, they don't have those characteristics. Simple thing. So it's interesting. I will tell you a little story here on this juncture. So last week, one of the trade bodies, the Nuclear Alliance, the Non-Nuclear Alliance, I represent their skills and capability group, and we discussed how we can bring new people into the talent pool. And I was talking about this event specifically, and saying, you know, it's something we need to look at, we need to target more this environment, this can really help, these are the skill sets we need. And it's quite an older demographic in that room. I mentioned that the statistic around neuro diversity globally, 1 in 5 people, really high, 1 in 5 people, 20% are neurodiverse. We had a bit of a discussion about it, and the conclusion was that we think in the nuclear industry, 1 in 5 aren't neurodiverse. So these are really good parts. There's other sectors similar as well. These are really good places we can find an outlet and find a place where our skills are really valued. So bear that in mind. So what's the problem? Certainly in engineering, there's a real issue. A lot of the rooms I sit in, whether that's the Aerospace Alliance, the automotive, the energy sector, different nuclear groups, it's the same problem. There's a lot of focus now on a shortage of engineers, shortage of makers, creatives. Around 25% of all jobs in the UK, hopefully today, are in an engineering function in some way, shape or form. Really high. Around the average age of an engineer is 54. Not good at all, really. You know, we're coming up to retirement. That demographic is pretty poor. But we're coming up to retirement. A lot of people, I'm a case in point. I was a consultant engineer and I went into education with 3D 360. You know, I left and went into education. I'm not quite 54, although Lee, I believe, put the picture in the top right of me. Honestly, the avatar needs a bit of work, right? Not all makes me creatively good at stuff. But no, I mean, it is a really aging sector. And it's a really good opportunity, you know, it's sharpened people's focus in the industry. It's a really good opportunity for people to get into that sector because there's such demand. You know, there's a lot of panic on. By 2026, another 91,000 engineers will have retired, about 20% of the current UK workforce. And it's interesting here, we made the point the UK is struggling to retain engineers, but I think a lot of this is about the perception of engineering, big heavy engineering, oily, dirty rag engineering, and it's not engineering, it's modern digital industry 4.0, remote monitoring, Internet of Things. It really isn't. So I think there's a big battle almost to change the perception around what engineering is. And it was blue collar engineering some time ago, but it's not. In the modern world, that's not what we do. And obviously there's a huge gender gap. And I think, again, makers, creatives, I see quite equal gender splits here. We need to tap into that pool to really, you know, improve the gender gap in engineering as well. Some of the sectors we work with, you know, first hand on a day today, Lee and I, aerospace, automotive and energy, they're absolutely crying out for engineers and they all have recruitment problems, a really big issue. And I think it's brilliant that that's then sharpened the focus on where else we can look at for engineers. The tide is changing, rest assured, it is what we're looking at the moment. New sectors are attracting new talent, space, robotics, 3D printing, obviously. I wondered if we get a cheer for that, but it is. And I'll give an analogy here. When Lee and I were younger, coming through our engineering jobs, when CAD came out, it was a case of who could use it. There wasn't any qualifications you could do formally right at the beginning. It was about who can use this technology. There isn't academic qualifications. I was the youngster, so I got you can use computers, get in. But it's the same. That's where we find ourselves today. Space, robotics, additive. There's a lot of new skills that don't have academic curriculums associated with them. And employers are just looking who can do it. Who's got a good portfolio? If you're out there building robotics and you're applying for a job with industry, you show your portfolio. You're one of the best qualified people in that room. So bear that in mind. The world is changing. Really important. Additive manufacturing, where employers are looking at integrating these technologies. I see this firsthand. Lee and I, we help them integrate that technology. They haven't got people in-house who can print my meter. Ultimately, if you're not going to be recruiting, I'd be here recruiting. If I needed 3D printing, resource in my engineering company, I'd be here tapping into groups and rooms like this. And the problem is, obviously, they're all fishing from the same pond. But what I'm trying to do, and I'll make this pledge to you, is when I work with these trade bodies, these sets of body groups, I raise this regularly. We raise it, Lee and I. There's another demographic here that we're missing. We're really missing out, and letting people down a little bit. So I'll have those discussions. I'm already doing it with the nuclear industry. And we'll have those discussions across all those sectors and really try and make that inclusive for everyone. So how do we solve the problem ultimately? We've got 20%, 25% shortage of engineers. Where are we going to find all these people? Does anyone want to hazard a guess? Here, it's us. That's where we find these people. Tapping into rooms like this, it's tapping into our demographic. There's a simple solution, and that's what we're working on. Just concluding a little bit, acceptance is really important. Traditional engineering is an older demographic. It has been quite heavy engineering in the past. We need to change. We need to look at this slightly differently as well, and see the skills and what neurodiverse people can bring. A lot of it's about rapidly upskilling people. It's about quick, rapid upskill courses that we can retrain people in new skills. And we need to create a safe environment. So old-fashioned engineering can be a bit of a man's industry from the 70s, if you like. We need to embrace that. We need to change that and be more inclusive as well across engineering. So, does anyone have any questions? It's open discussion. Yes. Do you want to give us your name?
Hi, I'm Duncan.
Duncan, hi Duncan.
You started off advertising your training programs.
Yes.
And this is about neurodiversity.
Yes.
So, is there anything that you do to either recruit or during your training to help the more severe neurodiverse people, and has it helped?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a really good question. I was trying to get that point across. It's but not very well, so I'm glad you've asked that. It's a really good question. We do loads. Some of the things we do, we have no prior attainment access to our course. It doesn't matter if you've got any qualifications at all. Every single person is technically eligible. We work with VCSEs, charity groups, to help improve our offerings to be fit for purpose for all different demographics, not just neurodiverse. And we actually have really, really impressive statistics around neurodiversity and disabilities through our training program. We make every reasonable adjustment possible and more to enable everyone to complete this course. We've just sat someone through our training course where we needed to put a person with them all the way through that course. They needed physical help. And we put one of our technicians, we're all trained around SEN education. We put one of our technicians with them all day, and we had an extra technician doing the normal day job. And we actually sat someone with that person. We visited the house. We went to see the mum and dad. And it's one of many examples, I think, we've done that. So yeah, we make whatever reasonable adjustment is required, and because we're quite agile, that can be anything and everything. So yeah, it's a good question. Thanks, Duncan. Anyone else?
Yeah, just a quickie on that. It's like people like seniors, they're actually now, when they advertise the job, they're looking for neurodiverse people. They've
Yeah.
actually got a policy in place, and a lot of the big companies are now. So
Very great
they
point.
actually realise that, they need to include everybody to get the products and to the right people, basically.
I think it's a really good point. You brought me on to something I'd actually missed. Say GCHQ, the way they advertise. So Andrew's right. There's the bigger companies certainly are putting policies in place. Because, they really need to recruit diverse people, and they're formalising that in their procedures and policies. So I think it's a great point. But I love the GCHQ recruit for a lot of their roles. It's Easter eggs, it's quizzes, it's online. I've looked at some of them and thought, I'll have a go at that. I'm not interested in a job at GCHQ. That's quite a fancy problem to solve. So, there is an awareness from industry and employers that we need to do this. There's policies. It's a great time. I think that's what we're trying to get across there. Thanks, Andrew. That's great info.
So I recently got involved and leadership with the NHS. I'm dyslexic, so science.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
The question of the application. It's quite long, actually. My spelling, I don't know, anything more on anything. and try and get my foot in. But if I know I'm going to an interview, I know I've got a really good chance of getting that job. Or if I'm not even going to pass the application stage, how am I going to get that job? And a lot of employers, especially like the NHS, if you got one in clinical engineering department, was because I ticked on a form and I was dyslexia. So then you basically got an interview to get your place across because they knew you were going to probably fail at the first hurdle. So it's really good that a lot of employers now are able to offer that. And it gives you a good chance because I would have forgotten. I got the job. So, it worked.
It's a really good point, red flag there. Perhaps not ticking that would have been an issue. But ticking it, allows them to make reasonable adjustments. It allows them to have those discussions perhaps where instead of doing it in writing. So that's a great point, that, Rebs. Thank you for that. Rebs FX edit, by the way, if anyone wants to look at Rebs' work, it's phenomenal.
Paul, do you think that companies have had it too easy because there's been too many people for so long? They've been able to just stick to the tried and tested university route, and now they're having to
Absolutely.
side of the box.
Exactly that, and I think it's supply and demand, where there's been more jobs than people before, they've been able to be lazy around recruitment a little bit. People have just come to them, they don't need to make the extra effort. And I think today, certainly the missing millions since COVID and the changeover now, there's actually more jobs than people looking for them. I think it's really sharpened the focus. They're having to think about what they can do to attract the best talent. And it's good. We're seeing all these outputs from it. So I think in one hand, it's having a real positive because it's made them look at different demographics and it's made them change how they recruit. Yeah, thank you, Lee. Anyone else? Yes, young man.
I work as a professor in Switzerland at the University of Applied Sciences.
Yes.
How do you tackle the problem that if you want to become an engineer, you have to get education?
Yes.
And if you're neurodiverse, it's difficult sometimes to get, at least in Switzerland, to get the normal education.
Absolutely. I think it's a great question. I think this is where apprenticeships and practical learning really comes in. There's ways we can assess people's skills by using industry experience and applied experience of it. There's tools we can use through professional registration that do that. But I think it's really important. If you're in the job doing it practically, there's ways then they can help you get through the education side of it. I think if you're doing it on your own, spoke to a young man yesterday who's going to really struggle, and that was off the cards for him. It wasn't an option that he could go through that academic route to then get into the job he wanted. Apprenticeships for me in England, in the UK, I'm not familiar with the Swedish ecosystem, but doing that practical learning then enables you to go through the academic stuff. There may be additional support they provide, there may be people who can chaperone or people who can offer that support then through the academic side. But you can certainly build your skills practically and get the marks for that, if you like, and get that assessed professionally. So that'd be the route in the UK. That's the route I do.
Oh, can I just add to that? We've got this great social media networks now and platforms. And I think a lot of people can demonstrate their capabilities across those channels. If you're demonstrating the fact that you can do robotics, high-end stuff, it's almost like years ago you had to have a record contract to be a successful band or whatever. You don't know. People watch it on social media. So because of the fact that we can all create things in our back bedrooms or in our garages and stuff, it gives people, well, Reds is a great one for that. Do you want to explain your journey, Reds?
Well, pretty quickly, so I'm running over that ball. And basically, all of the jobs I've had, whether it's been on TV or last year I worked on Doctor Who, this year I'm working with the NHS, whether it's monsters, millions or body parts, it's all the same skills. It's that CAD design, additive manufacturing, and I've never once been hired on my degree. They literally don't care. It's been on a portfolio, which is kind of annoying because I've just spent all of the student loan or something. I didn't really need to so maybe do an apprenticeship. But at the same time, like literally no one's ever asked for a degree and I like being in an interview, but because I already had that portfolio. And that was me just playing around with Polycon, stressing out, being confused, working it out. And then so I don't even call myself an engineer, I'm an art engineer because I just make stuff.
Brilliant. And it's a great takeaway. That's great to finish on. We're conscious we're over time a little bit, but build that portfolio, and I think that in the UK we have a professional registration system where that can go towards it. Brilliant, right, well, thank you all for your time, I think it's been a brilliant presentation, so any questions, you can catch up with me outside and afterwards, and any of the team, feel free to grab us later if you want any Q&A. Thank you very much.